Beardo Banjo. Hello there everyone and welcome to another episode of Will It VR. Today I'm doing something a little bit different. Today I'm playing around with VORPX and trying to get it to latch onto Dolphin. Not Dolphin VR, just normal Dolphin. If you don't know, Dolphin is an emulator that runs Gamecube games and Wii games. And I'm going to get VORPX to latch onto Dolphin. I'm going to try out some games in immersive screen mode, some Gamecube games in immersive screen mode, see how well the 3D works. See how playable they are, and just see how well they run within VORPX, because Dolphin VR is something I've been playing with recently, and it's very impressive. It's a little bit dated, it hasn't had any updates for a long time, but in my opinion it runs these Gamecube games fantastically, really well, and it does some fantastic stuff. If you want to experience Gamecube games in VR or in a new way, it's a great way to do it. But VORPX recently added support for Dolphin, as in regular Dolphin again, not the VR version of Dolphin. So normal Dolphin Emulator is now supported in VORPX. So VORPX will latch on to Dolphin Emulator now and let you display and play your Gamecube or Wii games in VR. So I've picked about 5 different games today to try out in immersive screen mode in VORPX, just to kind of talk you through how good they look, how well they run, if there's any kind of 3D, all that kind of stuff, because I'm interested in this. I'm very new to it, so this is me just dipping my toe in. Over the next few weeks and months, who knows, I'll probably play around with this a lot more, but this is my first foray into getting VORPX to run with Dolphin, to give me Gamecube games in VR rather than just going straight through Dolphin VR. One thing to note very quickly before I start diving into these games, if you just get Dolphin downloaded, set up, get your ROMs going, and then try to get VORPX to attach to it, the first game you load into will be like, you won't be able to see it, it'll be blurry, it'll be 2 images, and then it'll be crossing over, and it'll be an absolute mess. So the first thing you need to do in Dolphin is come into your graphics settings and make sure you've turned on some form of 3D, otherwise it just doesn't work in 3D. So you want to come into here, so into graphics, into enhancements, and turn on one of the stereoscopic 3D modes. Now I've just turned on side by side. I haven't played around with the other options. There are a few other options in there. You can also play with the sliders here just to get more depth out of the 3D and just make it a more kind of immersive 3D experience. Convergence is basically how much it looks like things are popping out of the screen in layman's terms, and depth is, so it's one way and the other. So you've got depth and convergence. So coming at you, going in, that kind of stuff. So play around with the sliders a little bit. That's kind of where mine sit right now. But yeah, do that first before you load up VORPX. Otherwise the 3D won't work. Right, here we go with the first test. This is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 3 running on the Dolphin emulator, but being pushed into VR with VORPX. Now straight away on the menu here, I can really see the 3D. It's really good. I'm playing it in immersive screen mode. Probably going to play all these games in immersive screen mode today. I'll show you why in just a moment. But here on the menu, the kind of menu elements are really nice. They're kind of popping out at me. I can see the depth around Tony there. Yeah, it's bizarre to see these old games in 3D. It was when I played it on Dolphin VR, played them on Dolphin VR. And it's just as strange here to see these games in 3D. One quick note is I've turned the music off, because if I leave that on, the game has an amazing soundtrack, but I will be copyright striked immediately. Someone will claim this just straight out the gate, so I've had to turn that off, sadly. The reason I'm playing these all in immersive VR today is because within VORPX, the VORPX menus, you get some fantastic options, but sadly, the VORPX attached to Dolphin, if you use the full VR mode, it just doesn't work. It goes a bit like that. Which isn't fantastic. Obviously, Dolphin VR gives you a full kind of VR experience. You can look around the worlds, you can look up and down, behind you, all over the place, and you feel immersed in that world. I haven't found a way to get that kind of result from VORPX attached to Dolphin. But that's not to say it isn't bad. Immersive screen mode is fantastic. It gives you basically a giant 3D screen in front of you. And immersive screen mode, you can kind of push it closer to yourself. You can zoom in, you can zoom out, you can curve the screen around to the sides of you. You see it curling. So it kind of really all-encompassing. And you can get the experience that you kind of want, the best experience for you. A lot of different options to play with. But to say this is a full VR experience isn't necessarily true, but it's in VR and it's a very good 3D rendering on a very big screen, so it does feel exceptionally immersive. Now these here are really popping out. You can really tell the 3D when you get stuff like that kind of comes towards you. It looks great. It looks really good. I'll jump into Canada. I'll do some skating, and we'll see kind of how playable it is. Let's have a little look. I've just put it on free skate. It's so strange to see. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm not going to be very good at this, but this is great. It's so strange to see these old games looking kind of like new games all of a sudden because they're in 3D and they're right up close in my face hole. Oh, nice. Okay, I still got it. Oh, that was good. Okay, this is very, very playable. If you are dying for Tony Hawk's 1-2 Remaster to come out and you just want to kind of have a quick nostalgia trip, what an amazing way to relive these old games this is. Just looks brilliant. It's so a little bit like what Dolphin VR did, which gave me kind of depth and 3D. This is doing the same thing, but obviously, as I said at the start, just not in a kind of a fully encompassing 3D world. This is more like seeing a 3D film at the cinema. But it's right up close to your eyeballs, so it does feel like a VR experience. The only thing is, obviously, you can't look around independent of where your character is. But that doesn't mean it's a bad experience. It's fantastic. This is a great way to play this game. And it is completely playable because I can still pull off combos, which means it's not detracting from my experience at all. This is very impressive. I really didn't think that VORPX needed to add Dolphin support purely because of how well Dolphin VR runs, but it feels like they both serve different purposes. Dolphin VR not been updated in a very long time, and is a little bit outdated. Runs really well, does a good job, but hasn't had any support for a long time. This is giving me experiences that I couldn't necessarily get in Dolphin VR. So although full VR mode is a little bit of a write-off, one thing that isn't a write-off is cinema mode. Now, cinema mode within VORPX is great. It actually makes you feel like you are sitting in a fully realised 3D cinema, and it's even better when the game looks as kind of crisp and 3D as this looks, because it's so hard to explain when I do these videos, but it just looks like the TV's just going in. It looks like what's happening in front of me is really happening in front of me, rather than it being on a flat screen. Really great sense of 3D. Yeah, the cinema mode in this, very, very usable, and it just kind of makes you feel a bit more immersed. If you want to kind of really just live out that I'm playing this on a giant 3D screen experience, then this is probably the coolest way to do it. Immersive screen's closer to your face, so it does feel more immersive, but this is a little bit more authentic if you just want that 3D cinema experience. Oh, this is brilliant. This is so, so good. Oh. Jesus, this is brilliant. Honestly, really, really good. This is... VORPX continues to impress me. I'm terrible at Tony Hawk, though. Terrible at Tony Hawk. Very, very cool. Right. Just a little quick summary on that one. The 3D is incredible. It looks fantastic. Within Dolphin itself, you can change some sliders to get more depth and kind of get more intense 3D. This is comfortable for me. Mine's set quite low, and you can keep pumping that up to get a more intense experience, but this is good for me. It feels like playing it on a really big 3D screen, and then when you switch it to immersive screen mode within VORPX, it still feels like a big 3D screen, but I can't really... If you're looking straight ahead, you can only see a tiny bit of the edges, and you could change that by zooming in and kind of playing around with the settings in here so you really felt. So look, I can move it all around. I can bring it right close to me so I can't see anything, and I feel really, 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 really immersed. Right, let's try another game. I'm probably going to jump into Simpsons Hit and Run now. Let's give that a quick go. Okay, here we are in test number 2. Now, this is Simpsons Hit and Run, running in Dolphin with VORPX attached. Now, this was a bit of a challenge, but I've managed to get it running with some degree of 3D, which is absolutely unreal. Now, again, I'm just playing it in immersive screen mode, so I'm not in full VR. It isn't all-encompassing, and again, I can't move my head around the world 360 to inspect things I wouldn't normally be able to see. So it's like playing the game on a massive 3D cinema screen. which is really, really cool. Again, I'm running it at 4 times native resolution. Now, this one looks a little bit grainier than Tony Hawk looked, but it might be because I've had to play around with the 3D settings quite a bit. The default side-by-side 3D settings for this game are far too intense, and it does give you kind of an overlay of 2 screens. It's just not nice to look at. But if you pump it down a little bit and play with the settings, I've managed to get a really nice 3D here. I get a great sense of scale of it in terms of like how far everything's going back. I can see right back into the neighborhood there and know kind of how far away it is. It's really nice. Let's take a little ride and see how playable it is. Because it's quite an intense game. It can be quite fast at times. This is great. This is really cool. So this is in the immersive screen mode. I'll flick it over to the cinema mode in a moment. And we'll see. Wow. This might... this could be the way I play all my Gamecube ROMs from now on. If they're not kind of first-person games. First-person games work really well in Dolphin VR. Metroid worked really well. And I think that's how I would play, or how I will play, first-person games, using Dolphin VR, because it just worked so well. But I think if it's a third-person game, and I just want to have some 3D, some depth, this is actually really nice. VORPX is doing a great job here of kind of pushing these games into a nice 3D rendering, and easily one of the best games made in terms of like an intellectual property that someone's worked on. You don't get games like this anymore. All these kind of movie, TV tie-in games have disappeared. This is like the last fantastic one.
Must never run again.
This is really nice in VR. Great 3D. Very playable. It's running real smooth. Yeah, real great sense of 3D, especially when Homer's running towards me like that. The one thing is he does look a little short and stumpy. I think that's more to do with the camera angle. But yeah, really great sense of 3D here. The only thing I wish is I just wish that the full VR mode worked and allowed me to kind of look around the world a little bit like it does with Dolphin VR. But the immersive screen mode and the cinema mode are both fantastic. So I'm back in the cinema now. There's my arms. Playing some Simpsons Hit and Run on a big, lovely 3D TV. A huge amount of depth, huge amount of scale. Yeah, really, really good, and it runs fantastically. Oh yeah, the driving's really good. You know, even though it's quite fast, it's not nauseous at all. Again, it really is. I'll say this probably a lot in this video. It really is just like playing these old games on a 3D TV that supports them in 3D. Which is really, really nice. It's not a full VR experience, I guess you could say, but it's a very good immersive 3D experience within a VR headset. It's probably the most, it's the best way I can put it without kind of setting up expectations that can't be met if you guys want to try this out yourself. It is just like playing it on a really big 3D TV, but obviously these games wouldn't have supported that kind of 3D display, and it does when you use this. Oh, there was a shortcut there I should have took. Come on, this is running better than the PC version that I actually had. I don't know why. Dolphin is just such a great bit of kit. In terms of an emulation bit of software, it's just fantastic. Look at that. Right, that's a success as far as I'm concerned. Simpsons Hit and Run looks fantastic in here in 3D on this nice big 3D screen. Again, you don't have to play it like that. You can load up your VORPX menu and you can switch it to the immersive screen mode, which is a lot bigger, and I all of a sudden feel very kind of in the game. That's probably the closest you'll get to running it in like full VR, I guess. Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely works really, really well. Let's try out another game. I'm not sure which one I'm going to try out now. Let's just make it a little surprise. Let's find something to test. Okay, welcome to test number 3. Now, immediately, this looks amazing. I really can't wait to play a bit of this. Haven't played this game in a long time. This is Ultimate Spider-Man, one of the best Spider-Man games, but massively underrated. If you never played it, really great kind of cel-shaded game where you got to play as Spider-Man and as Venom. Really, really cool. Got this again running in immersive screen mode at the moment. I'll show you there. I'm using Edge Peak just to jump out, but yeah, currently playing in immersive screen mode. I will show you it running in cinema mode in just a mo. Let's see how well this looks. This looks amazing. When Spider Sense appears, press and hold A to jump out of the way. Oh, this looks brilliant.
Listen to me, Eddie. You're smarter than this. This isn't you.
Again, the sense of 3D here is brilliant. This looks Oh, the 3D on this looks more intense than Simpsons and Tony Hawk's put together, I think. It might be the art style that's doing that. And there's a lot going on. I've got kind of rain falling all around me. Oh! Okay, right, so here I am, Ultimate Spider-Man in the free roam. A little bit like Simpsons, really, really, really impressive 3D depth. Great sense of kind of where everything is, how far away it all is. Just looks brilliant. And again, you can play around with the settings to get the right kind of 3D setting for yourself personally. This works for me, but it might not work for you. You might prefer something a little bit more intense. Press X while running into the wall. Yeah, let's do it.
Start with some wall crawling.
Up we go. Wow, this looks brilliant. Very, very impressed with Dolphin and VORPX working together here. Where am I going? Up that building? Yeah, that's fine. How do I do swinging? When in midair, press A again to double jump. That's fine, but I want to do some swinging.
Sure, it breaks the laws of physics.
Whoa.
So do most things I do.
R to web swing. Yeah.
These buildings are tall enough to web swing off of.
Oh! Fuck. Like, even though it's only immersive mode and not full VR, because it's kind of so close to my face and all-encompassing, and I only really need to look forward, it does feel like I'm right in the game here. That will change if I turn it into cinema mode, which I'll do in a moment. But this is just brilliant. I can't say much else. Just works so well. There we go. Now I'm actually Spider-Man. That's all I wanted to do. Just get to a bit where I get to play as bloody Spider-Man. Fantastic. Another success here. Runs just as smoothly as Simpsons Hit and Run did. Just as smoothly as Tony Hawk's did. The 3D is fantastic. The kind of cartoon art style really makes it pop. That is right in my face. Yeah, great. Let's switch it into cinema mode really quickly and just see if it still looks as impressive. Right, back into cinema mode, back in my cinema. Take that, bad guy.
There's one guy who isn't getting back up. All done here. All done here.
Very, very cool. Yeah, playing them in the cinema mode is probably the most enjoyable way for most people to experience this. The screen's big enough that the 3D is still super, super impactful. And it feels like playing it in a big home cinema. As I said when I was playing Tony Hawk, which is really cool. Yeah, this is a success as well, complete success. The game looks great, runs really well. 3D is really impressive. Spidey right at the forefront there is really popping out. Yeah, massive success. Right, let's try another one. Okay, Timesplitters. Now this one will be a real test for me. I tried this one in Dolphin, and I couldn't get it to run very well. I had these kind of flickering white images on the screen when I tried to play it, which really sucked. The head tracking was great within Dolphin, but the game just hurt my eyes to play because of this kind of flickering white. It was kind of an artifact that would flicker at me when I moved around. Real shame. So I'm trying this in immersive screen mode with the 3D up, and hopefully. Oh, auto aim. Auto aim is your friend. This looks brilliant. It's such a shame that I couldn't get this to work properly in Dolphin, because in Dolphin it was like Metroid was. I had full head tracking, whereas this is just a really good 3D rendering of this game. Come on a really big screen. Both have their merits. I can't say that one is better than the other. Dolphin is very outdated. I get that. Hasn't been supported for a long time. But for a game like this, if you can get it to work in Dolphin, that is the best way to play it, because in Dolphin VR, if you can get it to work, you're getting a full first-person VR experience. You've got head tracking, you're in that world, you feel like you're there. Whereas here, the 3D is stunning, the world looks fantastic, but obviously I've got no head tracking. Let's try full VR mode real quick. Maybe it will change my mind. No, still haven't got the head tracking working here. I need to play around a little bit more to get the head tracking to work in this. But this is fantastic. I think VORPX running with Dolphin is a complete success. I'll probably try one more game really quickly, but I don't think I have much else to say about it. This works really well. If you want to experience these old games in a 3D capacity, this is probably the way to do it. This and Dolphin VR together is probably perfect combination, because Dolphin VR will do some other things better. Things like Metroid. Having that with full head tracking as like an almost full VR experience was stunning. Whereas in this, I'd just be playing it on a big screen. 3D is great, but I'd still be playing it on a big screen. So I think you need both applications. I don't think one's necessarily better than the other. I think they both work really well together. This game is just GoldenEye, isn't it? Like it's just GoldenEye. I know the team was the same team. I think a lot of the same people from the GoldenEye team came over here to make Timesplitters, but it's incredible just how much it is just the same game. Right, that's a great test. Right, one more, and then I'll kind of summarise at the end. Right, let's finish off with Super Monkey Ball. One of my favourite games from the Gamecube. Absolute joy to play, especially the multiplayer modes. Let's get into this. Oh, that looks brilliant straight away. Great 3D menus. Oh, that looks very good. Oh, wow. Okay, this one works fantastically. They've all worked really well. But this one's got a whole other level of 3D depth. I can see this one making some people a bit nauseous. When you tilt, you really feel like, yeah, you could really like lose sense of kind of where you are in this one. Alright, yeah, this one's very impressive. Again, just playing in immersive screen mode. And I think that's making it more intense because the immersive screen mode is very close to my face. I know you probably won't get a sense of that in the video. But it is very close. It's kind of the closest thing you can get to full VR in this that I think is in a good state. I'll do this bonus level. I'll do it in cinema mode. Yeah, cinema mode again. Looks great. And then I'll kind of summarise for you. This has been a flipping massive success. Dolphin and VORPX clearly make a dream team. And I'm just so impressed by how stable they're all running. They're all running really, really well. And the 3D effects are great. I'm gushing about it, I know, but it's very, very impressive. Oh, that looks like a fun one. Alright, do one more level. Do one more level. Oh, yeah, the 3D in this is fantastic. The 3D in all of them has been great. Just good to see these old games in 3D. You know, it breathes new life into them to see them in a new way. And also with Dolphin, obviously, you can push up the native resolution. Running it at a higher resolution makes them kind of all seem HD, 3D. And then the VR element just pushes it to a whole other level because they feel so up close and personal. Yeah, what an absolute joy it has been to play these games. Right, I'm going to jump off and just summarise for you, but yeah, this is absolute success. So guys, in conclusion, VORPX with Dolphin is fantastic. It runs brilliantly, but that doesn't mean that Dolphin VR doesn't still have a place with emulated VR gaming. Dolphin VR is the place to go if you want to play a fully immersive experience, a little bit like I achieved with Metroid Prime in my last VR video. Something whereby you feel completely integrated into that world. Head tracking, you are Samus. That kind of experience. Dolphin VR is fantastic for that. VORPX running attached to Dolphin, however, gives us a very different experience, but one that's no less impressive. Things like Simpsons Hit and Run running in 3D on a massive all-encompassing screen are just fantastic. That and Tony Hawk were probably the two best experiences in the test I just did, and I'm sure there's a ton more games I could try out. I'm already looking at them and kind of itching to play some more. They both have their own role to play in emulating Gamecube games in a VR 3D space. One isn't necessarily better than the other. They both do slightly different things. And I think it's great that we have both those options. Yes, Dolphin's a little older and hasn't had the support recently in terms of Dolphin VR. And VORPX is kind of new. It's a new addition to allow it to attach to Dolphin regular. But they both have their merits. They're both fantastic options for playing these old games and updating them and bringing them into a play space that's kind of modern and new and fresh. And for that, I just think they're both fantastic. I had a great time with it today, and I'd really say if you're looking to come in and do this yourself, just come up here and play around with these settings. You can get some fantastic results if you just play around. Don't be scared to change these settings, go online. People will tell you what they mean if you're not sure what they mean. Come into here. How high can you push this native resolution? I sat on 4 times native that entire time. You can go right up to 8 times native, which is 5K, which is ridiculous. This is where I had my 3D sliders set to pretty much the entire time. Again, you can pump that right up for a more intense 3D experience, but that for me worked, that was comfortable, and I still had a sense of 3D depth and scale. Guys, I just think you should all give this a go. It's fantastic. VORPX running with Dolphin is a great way to spend your time, and Dolphin VR is a different style of playing these games in VR that's also well worth your time. Get both of them, play around with them, and just have a great time. I really enjoyed this one today, guys. If you want to see me play different games in VR or any particular games on here and try and test them out and let you know how well they run, please let me know in the comments. I love engagement. I love talking to people. All the likes and comments really do help me with the channel. So please drop a like, please leave a comment, and please hit subscribe if you haven't already. I'll see you soon for another one, guys. Take care of yourselves. See you later.